Hi, guys. Good morning. Welcome or welcome back to the Debate Club. So, the Debate Club is a platform that we established with the aim of improving the quality of public discourse in the country. And we host weekly debates and discussions on various topics. So, for today, our host will be Puneet, and he'll be taking over the moderation part. So, I'll now let him go ahead so that he can introduce you guys to today's topic as well as give you some context on it. Please go ahead, Puneet.
So today's topic is restorative justice should be prioritized over retributive justice by the justice system. So what is retributive justice? I will give a brief overview. It is punishment in proportionate to the crime to the accused. It believes in holding the accused accountable and reaffirming the moral order. Whereas restorative justice is victim rehabilitation, allowing, giving the offender an opportunity to make reparations and reintegration in the society to reduce recidivism rates. So there are many points in favor of restorative justice and also retributive justice. Restorative justice is, you know, um, appreciated for its reduced recidivism rates, reintegration of offenders, whereas retributive justice is criticized for allowing prisoners to, feel more excluded from the society. It gives stigmatizes them that he is a criminal, that they have committed crime, and it also makes it harder for them to reintegrate into the society, and that makes them more prone to criminal activities in the future. That is the argument of the uh, advocates of restorative justice, whereas retributive justice advocates say that some crimes are so grave, so dangerous, such a high level that they need to be punished by in proportion. Otherwise, there will be no moral order in the society, and also they say that punishment acts as a deterrent engine. So the certainty of punishment prevents others from committing the same crime. And restorative justice those who support restorative justice say that in some cases, like family disputes, domestic violence, or like children's juvenile justice, crimes committed by children require a more, forgiving approach by making, but holding them accountable, but not in the uh, very serious punishments, school punishments, and etc. And also there are questions over retributive justice. People say that uh, criminals need to be held accountable. Otherwise, people will stop having faith in the legal system and move to vigilante justice. Vigilante justice is when people don't trust the courts and take the law in their hands. With this, I will open the floor for everybody to raise their hands if they have an opinion in any side of the argument, or they can present a neutral statement as well. Please raise your hands.
So anybody who wishes to speak can use the reaction button to raise their hand, and you will be queued up to speak in that order. And the time limit per person throughout the first 1 hour will be 5 minutes.
Yes, Kiara.
Yeah. So my points are not that complicated. I think that restorative justice can be used only for minor crimes because it acts as a buffer for the like imagine this. If we use restorative justice in a large scale, people will lose the fear of doing committing serious violent crimes. Restorative justice can be only and only useful in the crimes that are not at all violent or are related to kids that are like misguided. For example, vigilantism or like crimes like theft, etc. But when it comes to more violent crimes like killing or drug abuse or rapes, that matter cannot be solved by sitting together and talking about it. It will give more trauma to the victim. Therefore, having retributive justice is way more useful in a large scale. Restorative justice can be only used in small minority groups that it can show the effect of the uh, restorative justice. And second point, my biggest point here will be that justice is not only a single sword that you have to punish the criminal and accommodate the victim. The second edge of the sword is as much as useful as the first one, or I will argue way more, because this stands as the crime that you commit. If you don't get appropriate or severe punishment, the crime will be repeated by someone else. In a large population, also in human group to mentality psychology, we have to set an example. Like if you commit this crime, the repercussions will be very, very severe. So people have a fear of this committing crimes, and they will avoid committing crimes. Therefore, I support retributive justice way more than restorative justice. Thank you.
Good point, Keda. And now I will let Thomas speak.
Yeah. So am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you're
Hello?
Yes,
audible,
Thomas,
but your
please go
volume
ahead.
seems low to
Oh,
me.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So they said that restorative justice is only for petty crimes, and it has no place for violent crimes. But if you look at the fact sheet, you will see that the Campbell review, that there was a reduction in people doing that violent crimes again. So they found that uh, it was the reoffending rate, meaning that the people who did these violent crimes, they didn't do it again. There was a reduction in case of violent crimes than it was for petty crimes in that report. So I don't think that restorative justice is limited.
Okay. Okay, I totally hear you. And I also agree. But you have to also think that the things that were written in the fact sheet were also like a research paper from Norway or USA, the places where already crime is low, and their way of seeing crime is like in Norway, if you are below 2 years, you don't see it as a crime, it is just an offense or something. And in USA, it's 5 years. So, like the calculation is rigged, it's not totally accurate. And if you say that restorative justice can be useful, then I don't see any way of it being any useful if it is related to violent crime. Do you think if a rape victim comes and goes to a restorative justice, you think she will be comfortable or he will be comfortable to talk their criminal face to face and come to a same conclusion that yeah, I can forgive him, don't give him any, I don't know, jail or what? So go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Is there anybody else who would like to speak next?
Yes. Yes, Andre.
I haven't been present for a bit too long. I haven't seen every single point, but from this is just to respond to the previous statement about the rape case example. The problem is, let's say you actually are charged for a rape case, and let's say, for example, you get 10 years in prison. What happens when that person is released from jail? Or what happens when a system fails a person and they are sent to jail anyway and they come out worse? Um, the problem with retributive versus restorative is that the purpose of retribution is to deter, right? You are supposed to pay a fine if you say break a traffic rule to deter you from doing it again. So, at what point does this retributive justice continue to deter a person? Because if I say accuse someone of violence, if you jail them and you put them in prison for 10 years and they're once again released, have they actually been deterred, or has the climate they've been put in for 10 years, the punishment they've been given, actually made them more likely to commit that same crime again and made it more difficult for them to return to society? Again and again, we see prisoners have more and more difficulty returning to society. The entire point of the Nordic system is completely concentrated on restoration. And whatever retribution that is there, it's all aimed to simply deter the crime or reduce the level of crime. They're not working on the emotions of the victim in order to decide the punishment. They're looking at the impact it has on society. I wouldn't say that's cruel or unjust in any way, because we also have to, it's more so practical. You also have to take into every single case where the justice system may fail or may not be accurate, or whatever special contradictions come up. In the long term, it seems as if restorative justice is the only way a society can really continue to be and have continue to be. If you do not have restorative justice, then you risk making more and more monsters, you could say, or creating a certain marginalized part of society that is treated as subhuman, which I don't think is good, assuming you value human rights. Yeah.
And we will talk about the point that she has stated. And now we are about
Puneet, I think your connection's a bit unstable.
your points were good. Shirish, now you can speak.
Uh, I argue that retributive justice is better for legal system because justice means giving what anyone deserves, what everyone deserves. And if someone commits a crime, in minor cases, he can be uh, restored in the society. But for major cases, if he can be restored as well, but we should not give him a chance, because if a person commits a murder, that the victim's greatest right to life has been taken, and if the murderer even can restore in the society again, but uh, what was the fault of the victim uh, to get away from his right to life? His everything has been already gone. So justice means providing what he deserves, and he cannot be a murderer cannot deserve restoration. So retribution is an essential organ of justice, and major crimes cannot be restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirish. I would like to add something here. What if the criminal who has committed this is insane and not of stable mind? What if he committed crime because he was born in such a young age in a family in an area where crimes are committed and promoted, and he commits crime at 16 years old? In that case, does retribution work? My question to
Puneet,
you
your
is,
audio is very low.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes, my question to Shirish and to everyone is that, okay, what if the crime is committed of murder is committed by a 16-year-old who was born in a very criminal, like crime behavior sort of environment where everybody used to commit crimes. Then he naturally becomes where he lives. So then should there not be some restorative models, like at least a transition? And what about intellectually unstable people? What if they commit crime? So that is some questions that anybody can answer, and I will let Thomas.
Okay,
Mm.
so I will go back a little to Kira. So he was saying about how being face to face with the abuser was a problem, and so let me just say that the restorative system was misrepresented there. So if as the opposition argues, uh, if the opposition argues that it is too traumatic for a survivor to face to sit face to face with their attacker, and if restorative justice forced them to do that, then that would be a problem. But restorative justice always asks for the consent of the survivor. So a victim is never forced in a room with the abuser. If they don't want to participate, the restorative system allows them to stop there. Okay, that's it.
Thomas, are you done? Okay. Kira, now you can speak.
Okay. Valid point, Thomas. Totally agree. But I will go back to Nair. Okay. Advaita Nair. Okay. So you see, he or she, let's say they argued that if we send a criminal to a jail after like 10 years of sentence, if they come out, they cannot be saved, so they may commit more crimes. I totally agree, that's a valid point to argue on. But you have to also think, if not that, what is the other thing? If we don't send them to jail for 10 to 15 years and give a violent crime a appropriate, a justified criminal sentence or a punishment, the crimes may continue on, because some may other person will do the same crime thinking the repercussions are just minor. I just have to go and talk to the victim, or the severity of the violence will be toned down because the punishment is not as scary. So that was my point.
Advaita, you can speak.
Okay. So to respond to Thomas, I believe that was Thomas. Um, I'm not saying that you shouldn't punish at all. I'm mainly saying, and my concern isn't about say 10 to 15 years. My concern is what happens after that prisoner is released. You've effectively made the purpose of the punishment redundant, because you have now created a person who is less mentally stable, who is more likely to commit crimes, who cannot be reintegrated into society safely, and you have released them into society. This is guaranteed to create more problems. This while they should be punished, I say that there's some sort of justice should be there. I say that it should be restorative first and foremost, depending on the nature of the crime. Um, for the best interest of society. If you're concerned about, say, the victim perhaps facing the perpetrator again, then there's something called a restraining order, or say the government keeping tabs or track of that specific person to ensure they do not commit any crimes again, or they do not harass their victims again, and to ensure jail time, or once again readjustment or restorative therapy, or whatever solution there is in case the criminal does commit crimes again. As for retributive justice, could we say things like the death penalty count as retributive justice? Because I think this topic actually applies best over there in discussing whether the death penalty actually applies. That seems to be the main example of retributive justice over restorative justice. So, if I may raise that question, that's the end of my point. Thank you.
Good. Before Shirish would like to say, I would like to add something. Instead of seeing it as pure black and white, pure restorative or retributive, cannot we have a system where the offenders are punished? They are sent to prisons, but the prisons are, hello, if I'm audible?
Yeah, you're
Okay,
audible.
so I was saying that they are sent to prisons, but the prisons are designed in such a way that the criminals are given small opportunities to make reparations. Like they could be made to do community service within the prisons, small efforts, and to see whether the criminals' behavior, their attitude actually changes. We could have trained psychologists assessing them, whether they feel genuine remorse, whether they have improved through the small acts of community service. And then we can separate those offenders, criminals who have actually shown improvement and a willingness to change compared to those who don't want to engage in any service and are completely excluded. So redesigning the prison environment and system, giving them an opportunity while still punishing them, and then separating those who actually feel remorse and willing to make reparations from those who don't may be the solution. So if anybody would like to say on this or any other topic, I give the mic to yes, Shirish.
Uh, as I already said, we can restore only to minor offenses or which can be acceptable in society. Disgusting crimes like rapes, genocides, murder, even if they can be restored by community service and they feel remorse, justice is not solved. For me, the definition of justice is uh, many people think that justice comes only when injustice happens, but it's not. I think justice is uh, providing providing the things that one deserves, like a gold medal to the topper, and it's like the thing. And a rapist and a murderer, I don't think he deserves to be restored. Even he should not be restored because he has already taken a life of a person who does not owe anything to him. That shows a very bad example in the society that can be a that can be that can be a tool to flee away from crimes, that they can be they can be restored again and again and again, so they need to be punished at a time. And as you already said, that a person who is raised to be a criminal type society, if he should be if he commits crime, should he be punished or not? So he should be punished because human being is not a machine. He has an intellect of differentiating between right and wrong. He where he chooses is his choice, but he has the intellect, what is right and what is wrong. A thief does not like to get theft. Murderer does not like to get murdered. So he has a sense of morality. So he needs to get punished. And there is not a thing like that. He is raised in a criminal society, so he should be criminal. Like in Mahabharata, Lord Krishna showed that he suffered from the same things, same various types of problems like Karna suffered, but he chose to be in the right path. And about lunatic and children, so children and lunatic is a different thing. That um, children don't have that sense of capability. They don't have it, so they need to get restored, or they can be controlled. Children don't children lack the children lack the sense of that knowing the world, what is happening. They are manipulated. They don't commit the crime by their own. And lunatics like the mean Syria, they did not intend to do it, so they also need to be controlled. Thank you.
Okay, Thomas, you can go ahead.
Yeah, earlier Advaita said that I said there should be no punishment, but I never said there should be no punishment. In restorative justice, yes, there is punishment. They are sent to jail. They are made accountable. They are made more accountable. In normal system, they only go to jail. That's it. They go to jail. It ends there. But in restorative system, they go to jail. They are made more accountable. They are asked questions on their wrongdoings, and they are and because in restorative justice there is a likeliness of reducing the crime rate by more than 30% than the normal situation that we have right now. An example of that is log adalats. In log adalats, they have settled over 16 million cases and distributed more than billions of rupees in compensation to the victims. That is restorative justice in action. So even our own lawmakers have realized that the current retributive model is a failure. And that is why the new Bharatiya Nyaya Samiti explicitly introduces community service as a punishment, which shifts away from the broken retributive model and more towards a restorative justice model. And one more thing I would like to add is that our prisons are at a 130% capacity. So they are more very big number of criminals, and most of the money is paid by the taxpayers themselves. But in restorative systems, the money for their jail is paid by the abusers themselves. The person who commit the crime is made to pay for their jail term and not out of the taxpayers' money. Okay,
So,
thank you.
Pramodha, you can go ahead.
So I'm adding to what Thomas has said. The problem with a lot of retributive justice is that it is very difficult for one person to subjectively judge what the correct punishment for a crime is supposed to be. So, for example, let us just say someone maybe committed a crime or a murder. You can say that this is a heinous crime, but you don't know anything about the background of the person, whether they what kind of influences they had. So, if there was an objective divine justice system that could judge this person's crimes correctly, that could assess whether this person is actually under sorry circumstances, therefore deserves a lesser punishment, or whether they are actually heinous, they are actually unempathetic, and they deserve a higher punishment. They will be able to judge, but we as human beings with our limited knowledge, we cannot judge that. We do not know what is the appropriate punishment for a person. So the only way for us to design a metric that says this should be the punishment is if we judge the effects of the punishment, because that is the only thing that which us with different moral systems, with different ideas of what how much free will a person has, different ideas, perspectives of the world, we can only converge upon one form of justice system, which will be restorative justice, because we can measure the effects of the punishment and we can judge accordingly, and we can create a civil, secular justice system as a result.
Okay, Kira, you can go ahead.
Uh, I have heard everyone's opinion, and everyone supporting restorative justice comes back to the single point that the criminal's background. And I agree to some point if it's a minor, like below 18 years, I agree. He can be influenced. But after a certain age, you can't restore a person mentally completely. You can see drug abusers go on their life completely being drug abused, and if you argue some do come, they are exceptions, and we don't consider exceptions as a majority. And I will take you back to Stone Age. In Stone Age, do you think we evolved so much and came back to this era so fast? Not because we were restoring the criminals, we were punishing them. Like in, I have read in some research papers about uh, Stone Age, in that if a criminal commits a crime like raping a child or etc., they used to burn them, the criminal, alive. So I think you are targeting to the evolution, the corner point of evolution of the humanity.
Okay, Advaita, you can go ahead.
Okay. First of all, Thomas, great points. I accidentally misattributed something Kira said to you. Sorry about that. Second, responding to Kira, as well as the discussion of criminals' background. There's a great movie, 12 Angry Men, and I think that there's also a Hindi adaptation, but I forgot the name, that actually discusses, that's actually quite relevant to what we're discussing. A boy kills his father, or is supposed to have killed his father. 12 different men sit in a room and have to decide only if the boy is guilty or if there's any room for doubt. The main problem is these exception cases. Kira had also raised that after a certain point, you can't redeem a human being. How do we know that for sure? for drug addicts who first start drugs and become drug addicts their whole lives, aren't there other factors like never being able to be admitted into rehabilitation or maybe some mental turmoil in their lives? The influence of mental health problems in a criminal's mind is also quite significant. For example, some women have gotten off of murder charges on the excuse of being on their period during the time of their murder. The time of the murder. Uh, so the main question comes into how to find the root cause of why a criminal has committed a crime and decide accordingly to what the appropriate punishment is. In the case of a serial killer, like for example, the Zodiac killer, who has killed quite a few people, who seems to be some sort of sadist who enjoys killing and will continue to do it. Does in such cases you need to evaluate if restorative justice is possible or not? I believe that's what everyone's talking about when we say look at the criminal's background versus say when an 18-year-old boy is suspected to have murdered his father. And that too, it's unclear if it's in self-defense, if the police questioning is all right. Because in a populated country like India or anywhere in the world, the criminal system is often overcrowded. There's too many trials, too many criminals. Not every case can get the special attention it needs. So in the long run, every single program, every single legal clinic, every single window of opportunity that allows a criminal to redeem themselves or get some sort of help seems to be more than necessary. I'd say the main root cause is just deciding whether restoration is possible. And I don't think that after 18, you magically become someone who is incapable of redemption. At least I hope not. It seems to mainly go back to consulting psychiatrists, getting a good read on the person's background. And while we can't do this in our current criminal justice system, this does seem to be the ideal if we're asking restorative versus retributive in theory at least. Thank you.
Okay, Thomas, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Advaita, for the points. And I support the point that a person can be restored. So the earlier speaker before Advaita, Kira, said many things about evolution, Stone Age. So I would like to say that there is no point after which a human cannot be restored. Everybody can be restored. There is hope for everybody. There is no point after which there is no point that after which they cannot be restored. There is always hope for everybody. I think that Kira's whole point here is based on the perception that in restorative justice there is no punishment. But again and again in this debate, I have said that there is punishment. There is punishment in restorative justice. And I would not like to put it out again. So please understand that there is punishment. Okay, thank you.
Girish, you can go ahead. Girish, you can go ahead.
As Rose previously raised a question that what would be the proportional punishment, we don't know. So there was a question in, for example, I am narrating, there was a question in a public service examination interview that what would be the height of height of the mountain in your district, or famous mountain, and he answered that it would be approximately 3,000 to 4,000 meters. So we know that we cannot calculate exactly what would be the proportional punishment for heinous crime, but we know that heinous crimes have uh, deserve serious punishment. So we can predict what would be acceptable. Instead of we don't know and we should not predict, that is a different thing. We should try to predict what could be acceptable in society, and everyone have a sense of justice that heinous crime deserves a serious punishment. And uh, everyone here is saying that we should know the roots of the crime, causes of the crime, why the criminal caused the crime, and we should restore him. But nobody is thinking that to restore the victim. If someone made me blind, he made me blind, and everyone in the state is trying to restore him after making my whole life worse. Everyone is trying to become the devil's advocate, and nobody, what effect it would cause on me. Why are not we focusing on the first place to restore the victim? Instead, we are restoring the person who has committed the crime. And at what levels can it be accepted? Victims' whole life can be damaged for serious crimes, and we are trying to restore not the victim but the criminals. Thank you.
Okay, so other than Kiara, there are some inactive participants like Sonali and Yash. Does any one of you want to speak? Okay, then I will allow
Guys, I'm
Kiara.
so sorry that I was actually hurrying up on the
Yes,
meeting, so that's why I was just recording and listening all of your notes. So don't mind responding this.
okay. Okay, Kiara, you can go next.
I totally agree with Sirius and Thomas and Naira said some points that I've written down that people can be restored. And I totally disagree because I study psychology. And in psychology, that is a big top of 25 years. After 25 years, your thoughts becomes rigid. You start believing in your nuances and your imagination so thoroughly that you are beyond a certain point that you can change your beliefs. Therefore, you will see a parents or any older generation have a firm belief that this opposition or this part is totally right. That's come from rigid thinking. So when criminals are above age 25 or 30, their beliefs become rigid. So I don't think it is totally as accurate to say everyone can be restored. I agree exceptions can be there, but if you say majority can be restored, I totally disagree because their beliefs can become rigid. Thank you.
Okay, so Thomas, wait, let us Pramoda speak first. Pramoda, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, Sirish raised a very interesting point about how to do justice to the victims. So from my understanding, we can account for justice to victims from a restorative perspective as well, because restorative justice does not mean no punishment, as other people have said, but rather something that prevents crime and helps the criminal get reintegrated back into a functioning member of the society, which can also include compensating the victims financially or by other metrics. So it does not mean that you do not do justice to the victim at all, is what I'm saying. That's my point.
Okay, Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, so Shirish and the earlier speaker said about how the victim is not uh, victim side is not we are not seeing the victim side, but actually in restorative justice the victim is more satisfied in restorative justice than in the retributive system. Most in our study, the restorative justice, the victim is more satisfied, as you can see in the fact sheet. Because not only are they punished, but they are made more accountable in restorative justice. And as far as Kira said about the psychology, I say that psychology is a science, and scientific theories are always uh, changing. There is no 100% um, rigid scientific theory. Like you say, there is a rigid brain. So I think that Kira is playing the role of an amateur psychologist, claiming that after 25, the human brain becomes rigid and incapable of change. But modern neuroscience proves the neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change for new habits, continues throughout our adult lives. So I think there is a place for change in everybody and hope for even 100-year-old person.
Okay, Advaita, you can go ahead.
Okay, this is once again addressing Kira's point. I actually agree that there are some people who are irredeemable or who our society cannot afford to redeem under certain circumstances. But I disagree deeply where that line is drawn. You do not all of a sudden develop a rigid brain by 25. Um, for example, I'd say the real case of people who are unredeemable are, say, serial killers, psychopaths, people who are behind genocides. For example, Adolf Hitler. Even towards the end of his life, he had zero remorse for what he had done. Or perhaps serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, who had killed and tortured 17 men and boys with extreme brutality. The main difference is remorse in consideration with actual psychology. There's the influence of hormones and neurological problems in the brain that can drastically change a person. There was even one scenario case where a man who had lived decades happily married to his wife, completely mentally stable, all of a sudden, in 1 week, changed his behavior completely, ran off with a 16-year-old, and disappeared into nowhere with complete behavior changes. It was later revealed that this was a problem, neurological problem in his brain. It was either something to do with a tumor in his brain or something akin to Jakob Creutzfeldt disease, something to do with proteins. It's basically mad cow disease for humans. Something similar had happened to that man. I'd say it's more important that when working on retributive justice to evaluate whether we can actually restore a person, if they are irredeemable or not, we need to look at, do they feel any remorse? And what are the neurological complications this person is going through? I say these are the most important things. And I definitely say that you cannot say a person is irredeemable just because, say, they're a little old or perhaps due to some arbitrary thing like this. Because there are plenty of cases where people have been forced to murder, have been forced to commit horrible crimes, mainly due to, say, their circumstances, like being in extremely abusive environments, or perhaps because they're suffering from extreme mental pressure or debilitation. It's also worth pointing out that you can easily say that a person use this against a person to automatically start to execute or to punish whoever you wish. Because time and time again, we see in politics that a certain group is deemed as irredeemable, is deemed as subhuman, is deemed as evil, even because of certain categories like this. Sometimes it's because they're prisoners, sometimes it's because they're of a certain marginalized group, sometimes it's because they're 25 or older and definitely can't change at all. I rest my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Advaita. So I would also like to add something as I have raised my hand earlier. So restorative versus retributive. In restorative, there is a big question like you have victim offender dialogues where the offender, understands the consequences of his action and agrees to make reparations. But let us understand that there is power imbalance in the society. What if the accused belongs to the son of a politician or very powerful person, and the victim is very on a almost marginalized? So in that case, any dialogue between them, any restitution agreement between them will not be truly fair. What if the victim belongs to a community that pressurizes him her to accept the restitution terms, to accept the apologies? In that case, the power imbalance can make it actually unfair. So in that case, there will be no justice for the victim. And also there are cases like, religious community cases, domestic violence. In all these cases, there may be indirect or direct pressure on the victim. And yes, somebody has said that offenders may have good communication skills, while victim may be traumatized by the accident and not being able to communicate their feelings. In that case, professional facilitators will be able to judge whether there is power imbalance and how to go on ahead with it. And structural safeguards are important in restorative justice as it requires trained facilitators, regulated environment, and psychologists who can judge whether remorse is actually there. And one thing I can say that the possibility of removing retribution or limiting it can be that there will be a personal vendetta. So if we don't punish a murder or allow him to restore, what if someone feels that okay, this is unfair and uses extrajudicial measures to punish that criminal? So that also needs to be considered. And I agree with Advaita that some offenders, are, intellectually not stable or neurologically imbalanced. In that case, what can be done for them? That is again a question that is widely debated. And also, I would like to add, yeah, an example that crime doesn't affect the individual only. Suppose there is a community of, suppose Black Americans, 500 Black Americans live in a community, three, four of them are killed in a racial crime. So in that case, it affects their families and also affects the whole community, whole residency, because now they live in fear. They lost a friend, they lost a good public speaker, a social activist, or a businessman. So in that case, retributive justice fails to provide, compensation, fails to rebuild society, social groups, communities fractured by crimes, because crime affects the community members also. And then a victim compensation is something where retributive justice is less effective. Victim healing, and then also adequate compensation for family members. And also, there are three factors that are always considered. First of all, the background of the criminal. Was he forced to commit a crime? In some cases, there is pressure to commit a crime, to do illegal activities, or maybe the person is too young. He was born into a family or environment where he was, exposed to such behavior, and the criminal behavior was normalized to him. Uh, and the third case is the effect of the punishment. What will be the effect of punishment determines whether we should go for restorative or retributive. If the effect of punishment is that there is certainty that okay, he is punished, the society is like, yes, justice is done. But what about the criminal after he, tries to return from jail, reintegrate back into society? Society stigmatizes him, doesn't accept him. In that case, he is more likely to again fall back into criminal behavior. So the effect of punishment must be considered, the factors that led to the criminal offender committing the crime, his background, and the third thing is, the general interest of the society, that deterrence is the deterrence. Will future criminals think twice before committing crime, or will they feel no consequences? Yes. And the last thing I would like to add is transitional crimes, crimes committed on a large scale, like organized crimes, crimes against religious communities. How do you punish them on such a large scale? How do you hold them accountable? Okay, thank you. And I will now allow Shirish. I think Shirish was the first one.
So, as you said, if someone is forced to do a crime, what punishment should be given to it? I think there is terminology in legal that the one who forced him should be the actual criminal, so he should be punished. And another thing is, you said that crimes are happening in a big scale, and how should we prevent them? As the justice system is already very much crowded. So, what if we off the justice system for a day? Think that we should declare that there would be no proportional punishment for crime in a day. What would be the consequences? I think the country would go chaos in 24 hours. Mainly, people are not committing crime by fear of the court, court or punishment. And previously, some debaters said that victims can be restored through restorative justice, which is partially true. But how can I ask them? How can we restore a person's life if someone committed a murder? And rape is also a serious crime. Sex life is taken normally in foreign countries, so they don't uh, they don't really take it seriously, like body count, etc. But in eastern countries, it is a very serious crime in eastern countries, because I saw in a reel that a girl was harassed in a bus that someone grabbed her chest with hand, and she t- she put away his hand and she did it again, and later she was crying in interview or in media that saying that I am feeling very guilty, that I would like to tear up my chest. I would like to cut my chest. She was so much furious about it. So how can we force her to exercise in restorative justice if she does not want to participate in restorative justice, and forcing her also is a minor crime, like is a crime, like we are taking away her freedom of choice, freedom, we are taking away his freedom. Thank you.
Okay, Thomas, you can go ahead.
Yeah, but I didn't clearly understand the story that Shirish was saying. Can you repeat that again, Shirish, please, in a short
Oh,
manner?
okay. My English is little bit weak. So, like, sex life is taken common in foreign countries. Like they have multiple I mean, sex life. I can replace it as character of woman. Uh, Satitwa. It is taken normally in they are most liberal on these topics, but in Eastern countries it is taken very seriously. The story was like it was not even about rape. Girl was arrested in a bus. Uh, a person in a crowded bus. A boy grabbed the chest of the girl with his hand, and she tried to put away his hand, and the person did it again. And after the crowd was gone, she did not find that who did it, and after she was crying in the media that he has touched my chest, and I am feeling too much guilty for it, that I wanted to cut away my chest. So this was the story. I mean, she was taking her character very much seriously. So we cannot force her to exercise in restorative justice, as it would take away her freedom of choice. Restorative justice can be only possible when the victim is ready to
Shirish. Hello,
restore the.
Shirish. Hello. Your turn is done. Let Thomas speak and thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I understand that, Shirish. But let me see. See here, in this case, she will she will be better in restorative justice than in retributive justice, because I think you have a little confusion with the retributive justice and the restorative justice, because in retributive justice the person will be captured, he will be sent to jail, and he may serve his sentence in jail and then come back, and after that maybe he will do it again. But in restorative justice, what happens is we send him, of course, to prison, or the harshest of the punishment that he will get. But with that, he will be made to confront her. She will be able to question him. Her lawyers will be able to question him. She can say that he must be sent to a sent to be educated on these things. He should be sent to rehabilitation centers. He should be sent to sent to mental care facilities, where he should be trained on not to do such things, because these things need to be educated. Many people need to be educated that this is a very bad thing, and like that.
Okay, Advaita, you can go next.
Okay. So far we've been talking about a rape case where a woman's chest was grabbed by some guy. The woman is extremely upset and does not want this man to face any restoration. The thing is that restoration would probably benefit the guy, would benefit her as well. Restorative basically means correctional. So you correct his behavior. You make sure he doesn't commit more sexual assault anytime ever again. This does not mean that the victim has to confront the perpetrator. This does not mean the victim has to be any way involved with the perpetrator. The victim gets their compensation and justice. The perpetrator goes to a correctional facility where their behavior will be corrected. That's the main idea. I think when talking about restorative versus retributive justice, we need to look at what and who is affected in when a crime is committed or when a verdict is reached, when someone is found guilty. We have the perpetrator, we have the victim, and we have the community of whoever is affected by the sentencing of these two. In the victim's case, of course, due compensation is a must. And any program that fails to compensate the victim, we can say there is a problem with the system, that's a problem with corruption, that's a problem with martial exclusion, whatever. But that's a problem with the system. Right now, we're looking at the victim and we're saying that ideally they should be compensated. What we're looking at is the perpetrator and how to deal with them. So, the perpetrator, first thing is to evaluate if they feel any remorse, and two, what their neurological condition is. One case I want to bring up is the Unabomber. I think some of you may know him. The Unabomber was once upon a time actually a brilliant mathematician. He had gotten into Harvard. However, it seems as though he was electrocuted quite a few times. And afterwards, we see him writing a manifesto and all of a sudden sending pipe bombs to people's mailboxes. So, how do you deliver justice in this scenario when you finally caught the Unabomber? Ideally, given that he was very much mentally sane, but was then turned into this by being harassed against his will into someone who is mentally insane, we cannot ensure that he is returned to his original state. But we know that the best we can do is to send him to a psychiatric facility where he will be taken care of and where he will be kept away from society or kept away from whatever would allow him to make more pipe bombs, send them to mills, and kill more people. That's what justice looks like in this situation. So it's a careful balancing act of evaluating the person's mental state versus the context. Because this is the Unabomber, someone who was turned insane. Another case would be, say, a serial killer like Ted Bundy. He had deliberately, say, raped girls, had kidnapped them, and still shows zero remorse. In certain cases, a lot of countries would actually offer the death penalty. This would, you could say, is retributive justice. The main point of this is that if you cannot afford to restore a person, you cannot do anything to help this person, and you know they will cause more harm, then that is the only place where purely retributive justice should occur. That's my viewpoint. That if a person is truly irredeemable, or you cannot afford to redeem them, then in that case, you should completely abandon any resource or time taken to restore the person and immediately just cut them off. Some countries like Singapore seem to abuse this, for example, and the Philippines, where even drug addicts are threatened, are going to be executed. This I'd say is where ethics and all comes into consideration. For example, if a small child is hooked on opiates or on drugs, you can't execute a child. The person to hold responsible is the person who distributed those drugs. My main point is this: you need to evaluate a person's mental state and you need to see if it's possible to restore them. Because the alternative of sending them to rot in prison or punishing them to get a person who is more likely to commit crime or more likely to sexually assault someone or more likely to murder, it doesn't make sense and is not sustainable long term. Especially given our justice system is very much susceptible to improperly sentencing people or condemning people. Thank you.
Good point, Advaita. I agree with the example of the mathematician who was not to be blamed for committing the crime, but because of his, injustice he suffered. So I will let now Arjun speak and then Pramoda, and then we will start rebuttals. Arjun, you can try to keep it short in 3-4 minutes, and so for Pramoda.
Yeah, thank you. So, would it be possible to restore the person who is committing crimes against women? Like it can be molestation or it can be anything like rape. So, how do we judge whether the person has completely changed and he will not repeat it again? So, he might act temporarily. Maybe later he can escape from that restoration and prove himself that he is he'll be free from all kind of acts. But after that, again, he can repeat. So, what kind of measures we can take to restore him, and how do we judge whether he completely changed? Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
but keep it short. Try to keep it
Yeah.
short.
So there are two instances that I can think of in history where we moved to a more retributive to restorative justice. So one was, I remember, in Iceland, for example, there were these feuding families who would constantly murder each other between 900 to 1200. And then they moved to a more tort-based system where you should declare your affinity to a particular chieftain, and that chieftain decides that you should pay money as compensation to the victim, and then they would like symbolically kiss and make up. They moved to that form of justice. So there is some evidence to suggest that cycles and cycles of murder, where one family murders the other family murders the other, that started to stop, and crime rate overall may have reduced once they moved to this form of a tort based system. The crime has overall reduced according to more objective analysis that is emerging recently. Another instance I can think of is in jails. So, as counterintuitive as this sounds, a lot of gangs tend to reduce violence. We think that prison gangs tend to increase violence, but it's the opposite. Once you have gangs, then one gang is responsible for its members, so they have to compensate the other person. And instead of one person murdering the other and the other person murdering the other, the gangs keep their own members in check for various reasons. So, what I'm trying to say is that when we move to a more objective law based system instead of a revenge based system, overall crime rate has been seen to reduce. Even in enlightenment, when people have started moving away from public executions and hangings and instead started introducing more civil based law, which is more common in modern law, we have seen it's coincided with overall reduction in long term crime rates. So that is why I think that we need an objective system that we know prevents crimes and helps criminals reintegrate into society. Objective law helps us reduce crimes overall.
Thank you, Pramoda. So now let us move to rebuttals round. In rebuttals, you can ask questions or share, counter arguments. So first I would like to ask one question. So there are organized crimes. There are crimes on a large scale. How do you punish those crimes? Do you go for retributive justice or restorative justice? And especially, communal violence, violence between two religious communities. After the crime is being committed, how do you hold them accountable? Should you go by the how is it going to be beneficial? Suppose there is community A, community B. Community A, religious community, commits a crime against community B, which is also religious community. So now the crime is committed. So now should you hold them accountable or should you not hold them accountable? Otherwise, it can lead to political instability in the country. There can be negative long-term effects for society, like community members are key. Why are you doing this now? So there can be political factors. There can be more power struggles. So should the uh, mm, criminals be held accountable in that case, or should they be, a restorative model, or how should it benefit the society, or the justice should be prioritized? That's my question, and anybody can answer, and also you can ask questions and present counter arguments. Please raise your hand. Okay, Advaita.
I just want to say something short, not necessarily an argument of my own. You're talking about religious community A having violence with religious community B and back and forth, and how to hold who accountable. Should we discuss the Ram Mandir Babri Masjid situation? Because this seems to be like a perfect example of that, of say religious violence between two groups. Just bringing it up.
Should we allow this topic about Babri Masjid and Ram Mandir to come up?
As an example, because it seems to fit with what you were suggesting.
Okay, yes. But Advaita, would it not be better if you just avoid naming anything, just A and B? You can have some real stories, but in the name of A and B to avoid any strong feelings.
Yeah, of course. It's just an example
Yeah.
because we've tried to actually provide justice in this sort of scenario. So we can take reference to that.
Okay, you can go ahead, Advaita.
This was just a point to raise with example for everyone else. Talking in abstract when involving things like religion or politics that automatically make things 100 times more complicated. I'd say focusing on the individual and treating all of these cases as separate, as in treating the damage done to property as separate, treating religious discrimination as separate, and treating the person who actually committed the crime as separate from the religious community. France follows this philosophy of separating the church from politics, the church from government. I'd say that principle still holds very firm and has to hold firm. You need a way to respect certain ideals like religion or community while still being able to deliver justice. Because the second all of that comes into play, it becomes much more difficult to avoid bias and properly deliver justice. Just saying a short point about this. I just thought I'd list some examples of where we can see crimes committed on a large scale. We could, yeah. For delivering justice on large genocides and all, I'd say large community restoration and all of those acts have to be taken. But also bringing it up into the International Court of Justice, like taking them to The Hague, that seems most relevant for situations where a crime has been committed to attract international attention, like genocides.
Okay, Pramoda, go ahead.
So I feel when it comes to communal violence, restorative justice is more important, not less. And I will give two case studies to prove my point. One, Middle East. If we look at the Middle East, several communities, I don't want to name the communities, have been repeatedly genocided in history. So one community genocides another community, gets, revenge mode and they start to genocide another community. Like that, we've seen many people die. And in order to just retain power, for practical necessities, sometimes people who end up in power end up having to genocide a particular group just to retain power because there is this constant, violence between communities going on. Now, if we take a second point, which is Germany, Nazi Germany. So a lot of Germans, we have evidence that they actually supported a lot of, exclusion of Jews during the time of the Holocaust and all. Maybe they didn't support literal Holocaust, but a lot of things that happened before that. But today, Germany includes in its textbooks everything that they have done in history. And they have, restored themselves as a society. And their students are taught in schools how to not exclude a particular community. So in this case, Germany has moved to a more restorative model. And if every single German was supposed to be genocided in return for everything that they did to the Jews, today we would not have a Germany that has admitted its mistakes and has moved on and become a more peaceful, law-based society. So that's my point.
So I will allow Shirish to speak.
I still think retribution is better for preventing crimes because I believe that, as said by Thomas Hobbes, that man is naturally selfish and is driven by fear mostly. If there is a rule, we follow. Only some people follow it by their choice that it should be followed. It is our obligation. Most of the people follow it due to the fear. It is same for traffic rules as well. When there is no punishment or traffic police uh, here and there, we don't follow. For minority, they can follow, but most of the people follow it due to the fear. And there is a famous case. There is a famous case in the history that where a king provided a punishment to a ship, thief of a ship, that you should be provided death penalty. It looks like a huge punishment, but he asked that is it proportional for punishment like ship thieving for death penalty? And the king answered that. The king answered that it I did not punish you because you steal a thief. I punished you because if I leave you today, you steal one thief, and if I leave you today, everyone would steal thief, and ships would be gone. So I think that retributive is better for preventing crimes. And as previously my example backfired me, that at that time that restoration may be better. So I want to give another example that state restored a person who raped a girl and he was sent back to the community. Then the girl murdered the person and said that who give you the right, if I was the victim, who give the right to the state to restore that person. So it depends on how seriously that is to take on. We think that it is small and she should feel better, that if she should be restored. Like people are not allowed to carry weapons in most of the countries, like in India as well. But Indian constitution has provided the provision for Punjabis to carry kirpan, because they did not, for them that is very special to them. If the law also prohibit them, they will carry that, because their guru's instruction is more serious, more serious to them than the law. So it depends how we take them. We should think that it would be better if it is restored, but that should not be the same feeling for the victim. So retribution is better. Thank you.
And you can go next. And please, guys, keep it within 3-4 minutes because this is rebuttals round. Hello, Arjun.
Sorry, I was on mute. So I don't think restorative works for the a community kind of violences, because we cannot generalize people, a group of people. Not everyone will have the same level of understanding or IQ levels to understand anything we say for restoration. So since fear will be understood by everyone, fear is the main factor that will be followed by everyone. So even everyone knows that if you don't wear helmet, or if you don't drive properly, you'll get into accidents and will die. But still, even after a lot of counseling, people will still ignore all these rules and do. But only when they are imposed with stricter rules and fines, then only out of fear they follow, not out of no option to protect themselves. So same applies here, especially for the group that emotion is deeply ingrained in them to attack the other community. They don't think about all other intellectual stuff and all. They are just driven by their impulsive emotions. So for the group, I don't think these things work, because we cannot generalize different kinds of people, and we cannot make them understand also. So that's my point. Thank you.
Hey, Krishna, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I am in support of restorative justice here when it comes to communal violence and all between two religious parties. Consider violence between two religious parties. What happens arrest and punish the people responsible, and serious offender certainly face
Hello, Krishna, we cannot hear you. Yes, Arjun, I'm also facing the same. Hello, Krishna.
consequences also. But after those sentences are given, hate each other, and they have to live, amidst all that remaining harm. It creates opportunities for acknowledgement. Oh, can you hear me now? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
extremely sorry for that. So, yeah. So restorative justice asks us to, address the remaining harm. It creates opportunities for acknowledgement, accountability, and restitution. And it also carefully, facilitates the dialogue. Because if we punish yesterday's violence, what is happening is that we are not addressing the distress that produce and follows it. So we may simply be waiting for tomorrow's violence. So I would like to finish my point by saying, like, retributive justice can punish the people who started a riot, but restorative justice can help people prevent the next riot.
Thank you, Krishna. I will let Thomas speak now.
So, as we are keeping it short, I will just say 2 points. The first is about the fear, and the second is what if the victim doesn't want the abuser to be restored. Okay, so the first point which Arjun said was fear. So they said that if there's no fear, they will commit it again. There will be more incidences of this happening. But let me say that in your model, in retributive model, the happening of the crime again is more than in restorative justice, because as per the evidence we have in restorative justice, the rate of the crime happening again is 30% less than retributive system. Okay, so as you say, when you say fear, the fear is leading to lesser crimes. No, restorative justice is leading to more crimes. So the fear point is out of question. So the next point is, what if the victim doesn't want the abuser to be restored? So first, in the restorative justice system, it is entirely voluntary for the victim to say that I do not want to participate in a dialogue and I want this person to face traditional court. So in retributive system, we allow as a fallback traditional courts and prisons. So if a victim doesn't want restorative justice, they are given the chance in restorative justice. Thank you.
Okay, Advaita, you can go ahead.
When discussing communal violence specifically, I say the most important priority is first, some kind of peace treaty, some way to de escalate tensions, and two, establishing group dialogue. When looking at individual cases of crime or individual cases of racial discrimination or attacks, it's more important to look at the larger picture of what fuels it. Is it things like misinformation? Is it things like discrimination on a governmental level, on an administrative level that is powering this agitation? It's most important to look at those sorts of scenarios and cases when talking about communal violence. Because if you are unable to de escalate communal violence, if you're unable to approach towards a solution or some sort of peace, that means there is something wrong with the system as a whole, the larger system. It could be spreading misinformation, it could be some kind of policy, it could be some source of agitation or injustice or unperceived unfairness. These must be addressed first and foremost when talking about violence on a very large scale. Then, second is, of course, justice to the victims. Whichever group is facing the attacks, it's best to provide some sort of space of support or healing towards them, fixing family relationships and all of that. But specifically, this is what we mean by restorative justice, by focusing on reversing the damage done and first establishing peace instead of immediately moving on to a retributive justice. And to some people, retributive can mean killing another, or a lot of people will feel the need to become vigilantes and all of a sudden become attackers once again. Once again, leading to more murders, more deaths, so on and so forth. You have another cycle of brutality and murder once again. It's important to address the crimes, address the harm done, and to always make sure that peace is first established and some kind of dialogue is established. So at least there is some ground for negotiation. That's the end of my point. Thank you.
Okay, Arjun, go ahead. Hello, Arjun.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. So, so the dialogue between the two communities, like if we look at the fights between the two countries, I don't want to name any country now here, but okay, let's forget about the country also. Even between a husband and wife also, the peace dialogue doesn't work. I'm not saying like we need to give any punishment and all that, but I'm just simply saying if we take the group, it will be impossible to do a peaceful talks where people will be with different intellectual abilities. So the point what I want to highlight here, like to solve this kind of issues, we need to find the root causes that are triggering the emotions in these two groups and making them to fight. the intense emotions. And we should build a system in such a way that it should prevent all these root causes to happen. So the system should prevent them to perform these kind of actions, like how we can prevent the accidents by putting speed breakers, or building a proper road system, right? So they will be impossible for even for a indisciplined driver also to make accidents if the system is properly built. Instead of us making them change, which is impossible, if we build a system that prevents them triggering all these kind of actions, then that will definitely de-escalate this kind of communal violences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Arjun. So can we move to conclusions now? Okay, so if anybody would like to state their concluding statement, please raise your hands. Okay, Kira, go ahead. But one
Uh,
thing, just keep your conclusion in within 2-3 minutes, okay?
yes, yes. Uh, it's simple. My conclusion is that restorative justice is very wonderful, and I totally agree it should be used, but it should be used in a limited way, not on a mass scale. Because in a mass scale, we have to send a meaning, and meaning is only sent by restorative justice. In restorative justice, it can be used for students or small minor crimes. Again, this is my concluded point. Thank you. Had really fun. Thomas, W points, and Arjun, W.5. And Nair water English bhai. W.
Thank you.
Okay, Thomas, please go ahead.
Yeah, so for my conclusion, I would like to say that um, the victims deserve justice. They deserve the justice that they are entitled to. The abusers should get the harshest of punishment for their crime, and the most harshest of the punishments they can get is to face their offender, as well as the jail time and other harsh punishments that the law suggests. And the and it is also the need for our society to be able to repair them, at least repair the 99% of cases that can be repaired. So I would like to thank all of the people who are here. I really appreciate all your points, and everyone was splendid. Thank you.
Shirish, go ahead.
Okay, so we had a wonderful theoretical debate, but I think it all depends on the context, time, and place. I mean, we concluded that if we say one party won, okay, I say if retributive justice won, but if the legal system is not able to sustain that, then it is not worth. If the legal system is fully corrupted and is protecting the criminals and only punishing the innocent peoples, then it is of no use. So we should be practical for legal system that what works based on that. That is the reason why death penalty was removed from all of the world, because death penalty surely deter the crime, but innocents were also getting punished, and for protecting innocents, it was removed from most of the countries. So I think, like Oliver Wendell Holmes have said, life of law is not logic, it is experience. So by experience, what work the best, it should be prioritized. Thank you.
Veta, go ahead.
I say that as a conclusion, a criminal must face punishment, of course, for their crimes. But we cannot carelessly ruin their lives. We cannot take away their human rights. We cannot leave them to rot or forget about them, saying that they're criminals, that's why they deserve it. We cannot do that. As a society, as the society that has created these systems that has allowed people to commit these crimes, or that has somehow created people that commits these crimes, I say it is our duty as a society to ensure these people have options for redemption, for recovery, for rehabilitation, so they can re-enter society and be functional. You cannot take away their lives or treat them as subhuman under the excuse that they have committed a crime. Then, in regards to communal violence, I'd say that it is a must. Restoration is especially important. Restoration and repair, healing is important for a society to recover, and especially important part of justice for the victim, for everyone, even if, no matter what. In regards to communal violence, I'd say, of course, earlier it was mentioned that maybe peace won't work. It is always important to ask why peace doesn't work, to always work towards a solution, to find peace and a point of agreement and talking, and also national or international intervention to ensure that we are all responsible. We should all be held accountable as a society and a system. That's my conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, before I give the mic to Arjun, I would like to say something, and that is that I think we all agree with one thing, that is that even restorative or retributive, we agree that victim rehabilitation should be done, victim should be adequately compensated. And one point to Advaita's is that international response sometimes is not so, positive. Sometimes it is full of politics, power grabbing, and geopolitics. So sometimes international justice is not a solution. It can turn reverse. Like sometimes it has happened that another country has intervened in the another country's affairs to provide justice. But what has happened is the dominant player that has intervened has slowly started, focusing on their own economic gains. Trying to establish a puppet government that doesn't help always. So that's a cone of international intervention. And so, yes, Arjun, I will let you speak, and Advaita, next you.
Yeah, I just
Um,
want to add. Yeah, sorry. Is it me or Amit? Yeah.
And after Arjun, Advaita.
Okay. So I just want to add one line. So I definitely believe restorative is definitely useful for people who are, who have the capacity to understand and has some emotional intelligence. They will definitely change once they feel that they are what they did was wrong. If they have regret over that. So just want to add one line on that. Even now, there are some people who has good intelligence overthinking only because of the law, and only because of the law lot of people are law and punishment, lot of people are not committing crimes. They know what happens if they do that. They have, even after listening to multiple counseling sessions or anything of sort on of that, even after that they wanted to do such kind of crimes and actions, but only because out of fear of law and punishment they don't do that. That's my point. So we are preventing a lot of crimes, especially people who are in the middle ground, in the gray area, only because of this fear of punishment. Thank you.
Okay, so Advaita, do you want to speak?
yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, if if another country uses international intervention as an excuse to set up a puppet government or to screw over another country, I'd call that a failure in the international court of justice. And I say we all need to take responsibility. Matlab, there must be global and international interest in upholding justice and ensuring corruption does not ensue. And as for restoration, retribution, and deterring people from committing crimes, of course, punishment has to be there to deter people from committing crimes. All I simply say is that there should be a chance for redemption instead of completely destroying a person. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so hello, Rose. Can we end the meeting now? Hello, Rose. Okay, so friends, you can leave The meeting is ending. By the way, today's debate was really engaging. Thank you all. Hello, Rose. Hello. Okay, Rose, I'm leaving.